Thank you very much. Those of who were here last year will remember that I had a battle with this clicker, so I apologize. Zinnov, Confluence, and I seem to have everything going well for us other than the clicker. So if something goes wrong, hopefully it doesn't, but I apologize in advance. So quick question for all of you in the audience, quick show of hands. How many of you have no cash at all in your wallet? Wow. That's a bigger number than I had expected. Very nicely done, thank you. So, how many of you have spent an entire week or even a month without using any cash? That's pretty damn good. Excellent. So, the reason I'm asking is simple. Money is digital today. When was the last time you actually got your salary as cold, hard cash? Anybody? Somebody is lifting his hands. I'm afraid to ask him what his profession is. So it's very simple. These days, most of us get we see an SMS coming in that our salary has been credited. Usually, it is less than what we were expecting, so that we have a little bit of puzzlement there. And then there's a series of text messages that talks about loans getting repaid, membership dues being fulfilled, etc., etc. So you get the point. A bunch of ones and zeros traveling across different networks, database entries getting changed, which leads you to wonder, was there any cash at all? Is cash dead? Before I answer that, let me give you a little bit of a history of how we have come to where we are. The history of money, if you will. So we started off with the barter system. I have some wheat, you have some goats, and strange coincidence, you're in the mood for making some bread, I'm in the mood for some mutton biryani, and we exchange these two, and we are all happy, right? What if I did not want goats? What if I wanted copper, and the guy who had copper wanted giraffes and not goats? Then it becomes a little complicated, right? So over a period of time, after we kind of battled around with this, about 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, in fact, shells started coming into vogue as a means of money. And then we went from there, we started using different things like paper money, and then we had other innovations like checks and credit cards, and then at the end, yes, we have PayPal as well. So you were expecting Bitcoin, weren't you? I know, we went from barter to Bitcoin. We had a lot of different things, including PayPal in the middle. But cash is still king. The question I asked, is cash dead? No, it's not. Cash is still very much king. To err by using cash is human. To go digital is divine. So we've come to a point here where we have used this over millennia. This is conditioned behavior. We've used cash for over 2,000 years. It's not going away anytime soon. But is this the only reason why cash is still king? No, because it's also convenient. It's not that difficult to pull out a wad of notes from your pocket and pay somebody because there's no education needed. There's no information needed on how to use it. Everybody intuitively understands it. So it's pretty damn simple. It's not just the convenience. At the time of transaction, if you're a seller, if you're accepting a credit card, you do have to give somebody else a commission for the joy of facilitating the transaction. But not with cash. You don't have any cost associated with cash. There are other costs, securing the cash, transporting the cash, etc., gaining access to it. But at the time of transaction, there is no cost. Of course, there are several other reasons why cash is still king. The informal economy, we all know that sometimes, how do I put it? We don't want to be taxed by middlemen, shall we say. We prefer spending cash. And then, of course, there's the hardcore crime. Drug dealing, human trafficking, terrorist financing, money laundering, etc. All of these are heavily dependent on cash. Right? So there is a room for cash in today's world because it is something that is definitely serving a purpose. Wow. I'm sorry. I still seem to be battling the same demons with my clicker. All right. So having said all that, does cash need a makeover? Right? Of course it does. The last point that I just talked about was around how crime and cash are such good buddies. If we need to break this nexus, definitely we need a reimagining of cash, of money. Money needs a makeover for multiple different reasons. For one, we have a world where we created this system of money when there were 2 million people in the world. Today there are 7 billion people. So something that was created with 2 million people in the world isn't quite the right fit for a world that has 7 billion and growing. Let's take a look at these 7 billion people. Of the 7 billion people, there are about 1.7 billion people who have no access to formal financial services. They are unbanked, they are underserved, they are ignored. The remaining billions, very few of them are effectively served by the existing financial system. Most of them are not. So that leads us to an interesting point. Is the answer just going digital? Is going digital going to solve all our problems? Well, the way the digital financial economy works today, it has been designed to work with the existing traditional economy, and there are several problems with that. Privacy, security, fraud, risk, these are all important aspects that we need to still contend with when we are looking at digital money. And then a lot of us already know that the existing digital money infrastructure depends on sometimes very, very fragile physical infrastructure like networks. How many of you have had an experience where you're trying to do an e-commerce transaction, depending on an OTP to arrive on your mobile phone so you can key it in, the timer is counting down, it gives you 180 seconds to actually fulfill the transaction, and there is no OTP, because somewhere in between, some leg of the network has broken down. There are several other things. Where you go to a physical terminal point of sale, you're trying to use a credit card, and for some reason the chip on your credit card is scratched, or the magnetic stripe isn't working, you're left frustrated. So there are lots of different reasons why, both with cash as well as with digital, money as it exists needs a makeover. But if you thought these problems were very, very big, life as we know it is changing significantly as well. This was a system designed in an age where the biggest concern for me was not getting eaten by a neighborhood tiger or lion, and also figuring out how I can exchange goats for wheat with my neighbor. Life has evolved significantly, and let's talk a little bit about that. So what do we have in the world today? We have a world where there is all-pervasive machine intelligence. Every aspect of our life is being redefined by automation, machine learning, artificial intelligence. These are aspects through which we are able to do cool things like tell devices in our home to dim the lights or play our favorite music, but we should also realize that in our very own lifetimes, these technologies have the potential to fundamentally shift the way in which we work, the way in which we live, the way in which we earn, the way in which we experience life and careers. Thanks to these technologies, there will, in the very near future, come a time when we will all be forced to reskill, relearn, and retool, because technology is going to rule most of our lives, and we need to keep pace with it. This will make it quite possible that several of us will experience income gaps in our lives. Is the existing financial system going to serve the needs of people with these kind of gaps? A good question to ask. I don't think so. The gig economy, very, very widely prevalent today. Practically every element of our economy is being prone to gigification, if you will. This means that several people will experience unsteady and varied income streams. Is the existing financial system able to handle that? And of course, the socio-demographic shifts are very real. People are living longer, they're working longer. The balance of the labor force is changing significantly. All of this points to the fact that the existing financial system will be able to do things differently, because the nature of work, the nature of life, the nature of people, what we expect from money, what we expect it to do is going to change significantly in the years to come. So aspects like just simple things, assessing creditworthiness, underwriting insurance, payments, smoothing out consumption, all of this are challenges that our current financial systems are doing in a one-size-fits-all way. And this has to change. So before we go to how we can go about it, let's talk a little bit about the primary purpose of money. It primarily has three essential functions that money fulfills. One, it's a means of exchange. Remember I talked to you about the wheat and the goats and the giraffe? What that system essentially needed was a coincidence of wants. Everybody needs to want things in the right order so these exchanges can happen. Thanks to money, there's a disintermediation of this chain of exchanges, right? You can just substitute money as an exchange mechanism and you can make commerce work. So that's a very significant benefit of money. The second one is that it is a measure of value or a unit of account. What I mean by this is, thanks to money being a common denominator, you can value or price everything in terms of money. So you can then compare what different things cost, you can account for them, you can then make intelligent decisions on what to buy, how much to buy, etc. The last thing is that it's a store of value. In the olden day, maybe your retirement plan was to just put away a little bit of wheat every month into storage, hoping that you can use it when you retire. Well, unless your retirement plan was using rotten wheat, it's not much of a plan, right? You need something to store that value, and that value should hold true across time. And that's what money does. So those are the essential, very tangible functions of money. But is that all? Is that the only purpose of money? No. Money actually is expected to fulfill a higher order need, something that is to do with socio-economic order. Money exists so that people can trade freely, so that friction can be removed, so that people can actually grow and thrive in their lives, so that their lives can improve and get better. So there are several problems that we've already talked about. So what is the solution? The solution is simple. You need to transcend from problem to purpose using technology. And the purpose is what I've already mentioned before. So let's talk about how to do it. All right? So as we look at the future, it's clear that life is going to change phenomenally for us. The nature of work, not just the nature of work, but also the kind of people who are going to work is going to become tremendously heterogeneous along different dimensions, not just age, gender, the number of years they will work, the kind of work they'll do, etc. So we need a financial system, not just money, and money is a key underpinning of the existing financial system. We need a financial system that can be re-engineered along these few core characteristics. When I say open data, obviously there's a visceral reaction that everybody feels. Oh my God, my data is going to get shared. We have to keep that into account, but in a world where personalization and customization of experiences is going to really bring in value from a monetary perspective, the only way this can be done is if all intermediaries in the financial system are able to collaborate with each other, are able to share data openly, keeping privacy in mind, making sure that there are no leakages. They need to collaborate to make sure that there is interoperability between all the different financial experiences that you're going through. If you're taking a loan, if you're taking, if you're getting a credit card, or if you're availing of some insurance, all of these different aspects might involve different players, but the data should be yours, and it should be yours to share with who you want in order to get the kind of customized experience that you want. Of course, that is not enough. You also need flexibility, because as I talked in a previous slide, the economy is changing, the nature of work is changing, so people are going to work at different paces in different sections of their life. There will be times when they don't earn much. There will be times when they earn a lot. Being able to even look at somebody's income and decide whether a home loan can be given to them or not is going to become significantly difficult if we apply the same rules that we are doing today. So there is a need for a significantly more intelligent financial system, and the only way you can do it is through technology. It is by prioritizing people over products. What is the aim of all of this, right? People created money. Societies created money. Societies change money, and money also changes society. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that all people are empowered not just to understand the concept of money, but what it is to be financially literate. And why do we need to do this? Because just like physical health is an important need, one has to understand that in the world of the future, universal financial health should also be a birthright that people can expect. And the only way you can do it is by reimagining money. So let's come to a very critical juncture, and let's go back and establish what it means to actually reimagine money. And let's start by figuring out why money has to be reimagined in the first place. What is money? Money is a collective fiction that all of us have built up. Inherently, a dollar or a coin or a shell, they don't mean anything. They don't instinctively have value. They have value because all of us have agreed amongst ourselves that they do have value, that they should have value. And thanks to all of us agreeing, they do. It's a very powerful concept because the collective act of fiction that across generations, across millennia, all of us have been telling each other and have been successfully telling each other. And the only reason it works is because this collective act of fiction is underwritten by trust. And what does this trust guarantee us? This trust guarantees us that every single person who is participating is believing the same thing. They are believing the same story, and they are acting according to the same story. However, the last few years, this trust has begun to erode significantly. And the reason is the population is growing. A lot of people have different expectations. Information is freely available. People have dreams and they aspire to bigger things, and they're able to see how other people around the world are living, and they find that the existing system, the existing monetary system, is significantly letting them down. Trust is definitely eroding. The only way we can guarantee a successful future for generations to come is if we are able to reestablish trust. And the only way we can reestablish this trust is to reimagine money. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure and a privilege. Thanks to Pari and team for having me here. And I wish you a wonderful rest of the day and a great weekend ahead. Thank you.